Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine. In this video, we're going to look at 5 double live albums that don't usually make the top 10 or top 20 in anyone's lists. So let's have a look on what I've chosen. So yes, 5 double live albums. They are all from the 70s. And when we see these kind of top 10 lists, top 20 live albums of all time, these records don't always appear. In fact, they very rarely appear. I might do a second version of this. I'm only picking 5 so far. Now, some people will say, well, the Scorpions, Tokyo Tapes. What about Uriah Heep Live 1973? Most people know about those. And although they don't make top 10 lists in Rolling Stone magazine or whatever, they do bubble to the surface. And I have done a separate video on Uriah Heep 1973 because it's one of my favourite albums, and it should be mentioned. So it actually almost appeared here just for the sake of being able to say Uriah Heep, but I haven't. So the first one, for those of you who are subscribed to the YouTube channel will have noticed on the community tab that this record recently popped up. And here it is. It's popping up again. It is Humble Pie from 1971, Performance, Rocking the Fillmore. You can get this as part of the Humble Pie A&M Years box set for about, 40, 60 quid, and it's in there in its remastered gloriousness. And there's also a box set that you can't find anymore, which I hope gets reissued, which has Every Single Night in a box, which Peter Frampton was involved in remastering or even remixing, I'm not sure. But that apparently is superb. But this is the original. Now, look at that cover, everybody. You see that ring wear, that aspect of showing that the album has seen some action. It's been played a lot. And as I sometimes say with records, vinyl albums, it's been to a few parties late at night. Maybe even someone put a beer on it or something, or an ashtray or something. This album has seen some life. But in some ways, this album almost needs to look like this, I feel. There'll be some of you out there in the vinyl community will be going, oh, no, it has to be, I want a mint copy or whatever. This isn't a mint copy. But this is a rock and roll copy. This in a way is the version that probably Steve Marriott would say, that's the one I want to put on. This is the one that has the memories. I haven't owned this from new, by the way. It's very interesting, 1971, in my world, in getting into music, because you can't escape from the age that you are and how you did get into music. So I think maybe sometimes it's probably easier if you're 25 or 35, you were born way after all this happened, and so you just kind of hover over the top of it in all these legacy albums, and you perhaps don't have the same kind of connection to how your life was not unraveling, moving forwards. So for me, when I entered music at 72, 74, that kind of period, it was obviously Made in Japan. But surely, Phil, 1971 was the year before. Yeah, I know. But I'll be going from T-Rex to Slade to Sweet to Deep Purple to Black Sabbath to Led Zeppelin. Humble Pie, the Allman Brothers at the Fillmore was... And in fact, it will be quite some time before I actually looked over the fence towards these other classic double live albums. And this is certainly one of them. It's an interesting little observational point here that you wouldn't get now. Obviously, that's the cover. On the inside is all the live shots of the band. Peter Frampton's in the band at this point, and all pitch to the back. And on the back it says, special thanks to Dee and Bill Anthony, without whose efforts would not have been possible, etc. Bill Graham, thank you very much. Live recording, etc. Engineer Eddie Kramer. But why I'm reading out these tiny little bits of text here is that nowhere, anywhere on the cover did it say who's in the band. Doesn't say anybody. So who plays guitar, who plays drums or whatever, it's not on here. And Humble Pie also did lots of cover versions. Now, one of the great things about this record is Steve Marriott. And I know he had a reputation for being quite difficult to work with sometimes if he was not in the right mood. And lots of people who went to see Humble Pie, sometimes if they caught him on one of those nights, they had an impression of what he was like in the band and then never went again. But other people, a couple of my friends, Derek and Mark, saw Humble Pie, I think supported by the Heavy Metal Kids. And the Heavy Metal Kids, I think, weren't very good that night, but they still talk about the Humble Pie concert. And Steve Marriott as being one of the best things they ever saw in their entire life. And this album is testimony to how powerful this band was. The band that had gone from being the Small Faces in the mid-60s and doing these 2.5-minute pop songs to here doing songs that lasted for 24 minutes. 24 minutes. I Walk on Gilded Splinters, for example. A complete, wonderful blues workout. Have I got that to hand here? I think I have. This is on here. This is, look at that. It's the original A&M label. So actually the record's in quite good nick, actually. So there are some crackles that intersperse with the crowd noises. It's perfect. Hallelujah. And then we've got I Don't Need No Doctor. And that's the one where Steve Marriott talks about, it's been a gas, everyone, it's been a gas. And then he goes into that riff. I think Wasp tried to do a cover version of this, but this is the ultimate version, I Don't Need No Doctor. It's just absolutely brilliant. And the other thing that Steve Marriott did, of course, which he was perfecting in the Small Faces, where he sang the introductions to the song. He would sing the thank yous at the end of the previous song. He would sing it, building up like a kind of a preacher in the American Midwest, the way he did this, almost like treating the audience and the venue like a church. Fantastic. Rolling Stone, 16 minutes and 10 seconds. Just move that out the way. So I have a tendency to turn these videos into like my own virtual parties where I end up at the end of a video with these records all over the place. So I'm trying not to do that. And the other one, notice it's a brand new poly-lined inner sleeve. Although the album has been around a bit. I Walk on Gilded Splinters, Dr. John, 24.5 minutes long, 1971. And on the other side of that is 4 Day Creep and I'm Ready, which is by Humble Pie, and Stone Cold Fever by Humble Pie, about 6 minutes long. But a live album that I feel needs more recognition. And that more recognition is not just from people that do these lists and stuff, but for those of you who are into rock music and you always think of Strangers of the Night, Live and Dangerous and all this kind of stuff, great. We kind of almost feel, and I know the same for the demographic that I talk to, we might lean backwards into Allman Brothers at the Fillmore, but there's so much other stuff around here. And when I do part 2 of this video, there are others that don't get mentioned, but this one in a way is a classic album. But it just fell somewhere in between the kind of awareness of fans of the time as we look towards Made in Japan, all this kind of stuff, and Wishbone Ash, live dates. But this deserves to be listened to now. So, Humble Pie, performance, rocking the Fillmore. Where shall we go next? I'm going to go now to a band, another British band, and it's Argent and Encore. We need an Argent box set, cherry red, esoteric, with mini gatefold sleeves. Don't scrimp on those. But this came out in 1974. I think it was mixed on headphones because there'd been some issue in the studio or something, and that couldn't have been easy, could it? Lots of pictures of the band there. Came out in 1974. Gatefold sleeve of the whole band. Argent were a band that never broke through the kind of third division proggy chart that they were in. They never broke through to the big time. Russ Ballard was more of a songwriter than a lead guitarist as such, but Rod Argent was a fantastic musician, still is, from the Zombies and the Hammond and everything, but the songwriting was superb. And this album kind of captures them at the height of their powers. It does kind of deviate a little bit towards the end in the song kind of choosing the songs that they did, but nevertheless, and of course, as I'm showing you this, those of you watching, obviously in the podcast you can't see, but the original yellow Epic label here. So on side one, The Coming of Kahutek, which is I can't remember it at the moment. Yeah, put it in the comments, the album I'm talking about, because actually it's my favourite Argent album. It's Only Money, which is from In Deep, parts 1 and 2, which contains that classic line, it's time to spend another pound. Is it time to get another round or to spend another pound? How dated is that? And on side 2, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which of course most people think is a song by Kiss. Thunder and Lightning, another one from my favourite Argent album. Its name has completely evaporated. And Music from the Spheres, another brilliant track as well. And on sides 3 and 4 was Hold Your Head Up, the big hit from 1972. Here lengthened to 10 and a half minutes. Time for the Season. And where was it? I think it went off. I Don't Believe in Miracles, which is a Russ Ballard song, which kind of feels a little bit out of place. Dance of Ages and Keep on Rolling. But you can get this, I think, on a BGO CD. It was out of print for quite a while, but I think you can find it again now, not at too much of a high price. But could this be expanded? Did they record other nights? Is more available? It would be great if it was. So that's Argent Encore from 1974. So Humble Pie are a hard rock proto metal band. Argent are a kind of prog band. The next band is neither of those, but I do feel it's an absolutely amazing live double album. And I think it's from 1976, and it's the Average White Band and Person to Person. Again, typical live albums, double, open the gatefold, lots of pictures of the live action, and it was 1976. And the Average White Band were soul, funk, but just as around this time I was getting into jazz fusion and really interested in different kind of mixes of instrumentation and listening to people literally stretching out, not just guitarists and keyboard players, this album, once I heard it and got over the fact I was an Average White fan with what's known as the White Album and Cut the Cake, etc. But I think this one really, really moves somewhere else. And the records, I'll find one here, which I've strategically placed. This is my version is the American pressing. Person to Person, If I Ever Lose This Heaven. But what I want to really mention is things like TLC, which is 14 minutes long. And the other one I meant to mention, while I just give you a feel for this, is actually sides 3 and 4. Heard It Through the Grapevine is on side 4, which is a great 10-minute-ish kind of encore song, really. But it's really on side 3, which is Pick Up the Pieces, which is their most famous, at the time, probably still is, most famous single, which is lengthened to 18 minutes. So each member of the band, they were absolutely fantastic musicians. This kind of funk, soul kind of approach to playing, but jamming and stretching out, a bit like the band War, but UK based, lots of great rich sax solos and guitar and everything. For those of you who grew up in the 70s and looking at live double albums, always think of rock metal. This, I think, is well worth listening to. And when people do these kind of top 10, top 5 albums, double live albums, it never hardly ever, in fact, it never gets mentioned, and it should. Person to Person by the Average White Band. 2 to go in this first episode, going along this route. The next one is one I was aware of at school, but because I was listening to the stuff that I just didn't have the money, and it got left alone. And it's Barclay James Harvest live album from 1974. This one doesn't have lots of pictures on the inner sleeve of the band, but has the lyrics instead. There's John Lees there with his gold Stratocaster, who I've just interviewed. I think this is I've got the Esoteric 2 CD version. This is an amazing record. And I think what makes this album is the instrumentation. The vocals and the lyrics are great, but what really makes it is the mellotron and John's guitar sitting on top of it. Paper Wings, Mockingbird. Mockingbird is just absolutely fantastic. Galadriel, Negative Earth, She Said. What was on the other side? Crazy City, The Great, 1974 Mining Disaster, Summer Soldier, Medicine Man. An absolutely wonderful live double album. Barclay James Harvest obviously I've done more than one live album, but to me this is the one. This is the one to listen to. And again, you don't see it mentioned. It doesn't get mentioned, and it needs some love, this. And I think once you listen to it, I think it really gets under your skin, and it's well worth listening to. That leaves one more in this episode, and this time, have they all been English? No, they haven't. Yeah, they have. Yeah, they've all been British bands, haven't they? And so that Barclay James Harvest, I'd probably put them under proggy kind of band, really. But the next one is more metal-esque, but we're going to the USA. So many of my friends bought Blue Oyster Cult, On Your Feet or On Your Knees, purely because of that cover. Because it was so mysterious. I think they spent tons of money on that front cover. In fact, the front cover looks like something from Stranger Things, doesn't it now? The logo, the fact they're called the Blue Oyster Cult, and before there was a band called The Cult, the fact you could walk around at school or college and say, I'm into the cult, kind of had an edge. And the way on the back cover, somebody wearing black gloves holding what looks like a Bible, but it's not a Bible, it's basically just the credits for the album. But the song titles, because again, a lot of people, this was their entry point for Blue Oyster Cult. There'd been 3 other albums known as the Black and White period, but a lot of people joined here. And so this was the first time you saw these kind of song titles all together in one place. The Subhuman, Harvester of Eyes, Hot Rails to Hell, 7 Screaming Disbusters, Last Days of May, Red and the Black, Born to Be Wild. And of course, it's, again, very unusual gatefold sleeve, all mocked up. But I think that, have I got them to hand? I think I have. Yes, I have. It opens with the Subhuman. This is the UK pressing. I think in the States you had inner sleeves with pictures of the band playing live. We didn't get that. We missed out there. The album's from 1975. I haven't mentioned that already. The Subhuman is the perfect opener because it's not what you'd expect. Most bands would have opened up with a real kind of riff-heavy, fast, straight out the gate track. The Subhuman kind of just trickles, just starts, almost like it just happens, as if you were walking past something and someone just starts to do a bit of busking. It kind of just gently rolls into place and somebody says the Subhuman and off they go. But it's a brilliant song. It's got a great keyboard solo, and the way that guitar solo comes in, you know, those of you who know this album know what I mean. It comes in at that certain point, the way Buck Dharma plays it, and it's absolutely stunning. And it isn't until we get to the second track, Harvester of Eyes, do we get the introduction, On Your Feet or On Your Knees, the Blue Oyster Cult. Hot Rails to Hell. So side 1 is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Side 2 is Red and the Black. And then 7 Screaming Disbusters, which is 8.5 minutes, which is absolutely amazing song, featuring the absolutely stunned guitar. And then Buck's Boogie ends side 2. And on side I'm going to actually move to side 4 first, because I want to finish on my favourite track. It probably is my favourite track by Oyster Cult, period. Before the Kiss of Red Cap, I Ain't Got You, which is probably the only place where the band themselves and lots of other people start to think they've kind of faltered here. The song does outstay its welcome a bit, and there's a few iffy notes along there, so this is probably why the band kind of, they look, when you talk about Oyster Cult live albums, the band themselves don't look favourably back at this one, but they should. And it has the most fearsome, wild version of Born to Be Wild this side of Slade Alive. And again, we have, I think it's an introduction by Patti Smith doing the On Your Feet or On Your Knees, and she absolutely screams it in a really menacing way. But on the other side of this, which is technically side 3, we have Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll, which is a brilliant song. It's a song that I used to jam with in lots of bands that I was with. ME 262, which is a bit crowish in a way. But the main one is Then Came the Last Days of May. And yes, this version is stunning. What I mean is, the remastered version, which you can get, I think you can get it separately, but it comes within the Oyster Cult Columbia Albums box set, which is one of my favourite box sets ever. It's a box set I should revisit, because I filmed an unboxing of that box set before I had the nerve to go in front of a camera. That's how long ago it was. Is absolutely incredible. And Buck Dahmer's guitar solo on there, you literally feel, when you listen to the CD version and you turn it up, you really feel as if you're in the kind of 3rd or 4th row and you're looking up at Buck Dahmer as he kind of teeters over the edge of the stage and he delivers those notes. It is their finest moment to me. It has all the kind of surreal menace and strangeness that is the Oyster Cult. It's just an incredible song. Go listen to that. So that's Oyster Cult. So those are my 5 choices for 5 double live albums that don't appear very much, if at all, on people's best live albums of all time listicles. So let me know what you think. Are any of those new to you? Might be. And what do you think? Go off and stream them if they are. And what do you think of these choices? What could I have done? And I know some of you are going to mention some, but they might be in episode 2. Anyway, thank you very much. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Please subscribe, become a member of the community, get access to our WhatsApp groups, our Facebook group, our virtual pub called the Now Spinning Arms. Lots of exclusive videos coming for patrons and YouTube members as well pretty soon. And keep spinning those discs. Check out the website at nowspinning.co.uk, and we also have our online shop where you can get lots of stuff from there as well. So take care, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon.